next year. Waiting for next year.
Hey everybody, waitingfornextyear.com podcast.
I'm not going to sing this time.
Okay. Hard Knocks, episode 3.
Episode 3.
Let's start with the fact that HBO succumbed to the pressure of Cleveland Browns fans and released that bad boy right at 10 p.m. instead of waiting an hour.
Yes, I was prepared to wait that hour by sleeping on the couch for an hour. And then I was like, well, for the hell of it, let me go see if it's there. And it was, so that was great.
Not since Cleveland Browns fans vaulted flash-in-the-pan running back Peyton Hillis to the cover of Madden have they expressed their power.
We get what we want, except for the whole winning football team thing. We don't get that.
No. Well, we get what we want that's within our control. So.
Right. Fan votes, we're in.
0-16 parades, we got them.
Let's not go down that road.
No, but
As you said in a tweet the other day, that parade didn't do any good for anybody on social media, that's for sure.
But
Either side.
It was a great show of fan power, if nothing else.
I will not agree or disagree with that statement. I'm
So-
going mellow.
Oh, okay. I don't even understand, but that's fine. All right, so episode 3. Overall takeaways. I'm kind of normalizing to the idea of Hard Knocks. I'm not shocked by anything anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go through withdrawal next year when we don't have this.
Yeah, for sure. Like, as happened last week, the luster was off a little bit, and it's not the fault of the show.
No.
It's the fault of, okay, we have this inside access. We've gotten some surprise, but to think, like, how many people work in that building between the 90 or so players on the team, the 20 or so coaches on the team, the who knows how many personnel people, and then you get down to the regular office workers, that you're bound to find some personalities. And so to find the offensive line coach, of course, like in episode 1, when he was in that meeting of all the coaches, I'm like, who the hell is that guy? And now I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but
I know he drives a white Maserati.
which I was not expecting.
No.
I expected him to be driving an F-150 that may be white.
Was it like Wiley or something?
Yeah. I would look it up, but I'm not going to.
No, it's fine.
Because we all saw it. He's a very interesting guy. What the hell font was he using in his presentation about the animal kingdom?
It was hysterical.
But that was also good. He's like, have you ever tried to push over a pig? And I can't say that I have. Have you?
No, and then he showed like the perfect stance for an offensive lineman, and there was like a rhino on the screen.
Right.
I'm like, well, yeah, it weighs 2 tons or whatever.
And he says, well, then the perfect offensive lineman is a gorilla because it runs with its knees bent.
And I love how clean the storylines are, because you go from that, which could have been in the first week of training camp, to the Browns figuring out how to run the ball against the Bills.
Right.
And it's like all these things line up completely.
Yeah, there's some excellent filmmaking going on at the same time. And that's what the main point early on was. This is not a documentary about the Browns. This is a film about the Browns.
It's a TV show. And it is important to remember that, because I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, and he was talking to Mallory Rubin, who's from Baltimore, and they were talking about all these conclusions that they were drawing from Hard Knocks and conclusions about Hugh Jackson and everything else. And I'm just like, I'm enjoying the show, but if you start drawing conclusions, sweeping wide conclusions, they were extrapolating the old that old meeting with Hugh Jackson and his offensive coordinators, and saying, if you have to tell people that you're in charge, you're not really in charge. And I'm like, well, okay, but that was like 15 seconds of his life.
Yeah, so if we go by Hard Knocks and extrapolate those things, Hugh Jackson loses a family member every week and cries all the time. First of all,
he's soft.
He has to try to dominate in meetings.
Yeah.
Devin Kajust is your starting tight end and is going to catch 15 touchdowns this year. And
Juice.
Yeah. So those, you're right. The conclusions can't be really drawn from that. Well, and also the conclusion we would draw from this week's episode is that Des Bryant was signed and is already on the team.
Right. Yeah.
Which we talked about in the first 2 weeks that this made a lot of situations easier on Browns fans, that they get the little behind-the-scenes look, and, hey, maybe Corey Coleman wasn't great to have around. And, hey, maybe Antonio Callaway's not the devil.
But did you notice that Hugh Jackson gave Corey Coleman a hug before the game?
Right.
There was a picture, I don't know if it was on Hard Knocks or whether, it wasn't.
With Jimmy Haslam?
With Jimmy Haslam shaking his hand.
Yeah.
Like, it's not exactly as we allow them to let us think it is.
But this week, I think it may have made things a little trickier for Browns fans who are perhaps going, hey, Des Bryant seems like he wanted to play here. Why hasn't he been signed? Because it looked like he wanted to sign here. Hugh Jackson looked like he wanted him. Like, what's the disconnect then? Did he want too much money? What is too much money for a team with the most salary cap space in the world? Word is that he wants a 1-year deal. Is the locker room too fragile for that? Because it seems like Des Bryant's attitude is in the right place. Hugh Jackson's attitude is in the right place. Hugh Jackson said, we need guys like you. So what's the disconnect?
Well, I just think that story is going to be told. I think Josh Gordon is a mitigating factor, a complicating factor. I can't imagine a wide receiver room that includes Jarvis Landry, Antonio Callaway, Josh Gordon, and Des Bryant.
Right.
I mean, it's really hard to imagine that that's a recipe for success.
Well, as Zach Jackson said, unless you're going to throw a second football onto the field.
Yeah.
So, but still, you see all that behind the scenes stuff and you go, okay, well, then why did he leave the building?
Well, I think that you could like Des Bryant. You think that there's some scenarios where he could be useful to you and that you would like to sign him and still find ways not to sign him occasionally. Just because you like a guy and just because you think he can help you marginally in some scenario doesn't necessarily mean, all right, well, we're definitely going to sign him.
Well, I wonder what the timeline is with Josh Gordon between Dorsey, Hugh Jackson, and him saying, listen, man, it's 2 weeks until the season. There's this good free agent wide receiver. Are you going to be here or are you not going to be here? We don't care either way. We just need to know. And then he went, okay, I'll be there.
But even then, he's in some kind of a league protocol where he's not been cleared to practice, let alone play. Which
is still odd and needs some explaining from the league. Not Hard Knocks wise, but I still would like to know if he hasn't broken any rules, what's going on? Or did he break rules and...
Well, Josh Gordon's entire path through the NFL from the point where he was suspended the first time till now has been basically guided in a custom manner by the NFL.
Right.
So he's on special lists, the commissioner's list, and this, that, the other thing. The Browns were working with the league to make sure he didn't lose eligibility for the season, and all these other things. There's no protocol. There's no explanation. It is all custom. To expect some kind of a standard answer, at this point, is just not going to happen.
As you said about withdrawal next year, I'm having withdrawal right now. That, listen, we've got this unprecedented access. We can see everything that's going on. Why the hell won't the league just tell us what's up? We're prepared for whatever answer. Just tell us and just let us do it. Don't be all secretive about, well, he did this and we need to do it. Just tell us and we'll deal with the consequences.
Well, but I don't think anybody can tell you anything until it's in its completion. Either he's ineligible and they're going to tell us he's ineligible, or he's eligible and he's eligible. But right now, they're waiting to see if he's going to be eligible or
I'm saying,
else.
Why doesn't the NFL have the same? Why aren't there Hard Knocks cameras at the league office? How about that for next season? Hard Knocks, stupid bullshit with the NFL league office.
They would never.
Soft Knocks.
They would never agree to it.
It's a spin-off series called Soft Knocks.
Yeah.
Why did it take a Hard Knocks HBO crew to let the world know that the Cleveland Browns have an office dog?
Yeah, I didn't know about the office dog. Maybe it's new. Maybe it was just for TV.
Oh, maybe. It seems like everybody knew him. I mean, whoever's there year over year.
It doesn't take long to get to know a lab. Everybody loves an office lab. One of my insurance offices has an office lab.
It's nice. Does he get along with Swagger? Have they met? Are they friendly? I mean, knowing the lab would be friendly. I don't know about
the things people want to know.
Yeah, this is all stuff. And why does it take an investigative crew to find this out? I think this should be more in the forefront of making the Browns more popular anyway.
So that's obviously a real soft, Hard Knocks storyline. Brogan Roback playing with butterflies. I don't know. Don't waste my time.
You talk about, and I'm all for getting to know people. And
Are you?
Yes, I am. And I know that you're an old curmudgeon and we're mad about the Cajuste thing. I liked the Cajuste thing.
I wasn't mad about it.
Yes, you were. You were going, I'm mad about it.
I just know how unimportant it is.
I'm aware of that, but it's also pro football, so it's all unimportant.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that was an interesting story about an interesting guy. Brogan Roback, no offense to you, you do not seem like a very interesting guy. Because, well, he's super young. All he knows is playing quarterback, and they didn't tell us, oh, there's some people coming from Toledo. They didn't explore any of that. They didn't explore any of his family. They just showed him declaring that butterflies don't have any nutritional content,
yes,
as he put it.
On the flip side, it is interesting to get to know Nate Orchard better.
Yes.
And he truly is a player on the bubble. He's a guy who has played some NFL football, who has marginal NFL talent, and it's a numbers game at his position, and he's going to have a real tough time because he's competing with Carl Nassib. He's competing with, he's not competing with Garrett or Agba, who are the clear starters. And so
that is the kind of story that Hard Knocks is excellent at highlighting, especially in the preseason game with the footage of him missing a couple of sacks and slipping. And
he's likable. His family has always been likable. He came into, I don't know if you remember, but he came into the league with a newborn. And everybody was like, oh, finally we got a grown-ass man as opposed to some immature child.
Right.
These were the storylines associated with Nate Orchard when he came into the league and came to the Browns specifically. And now it seems like it's going to play out. Unfortunately for him, I think he probably ends up getting cut.
Well, that's the tough part about a team that is rebuilding and is gaining talent. Is those personalities that you've come to love, not necessarily love, he, I would say, is a Browns fan favorite in that, like, the hardcore fans know his name and like the effort that he puts in and stuff like that.
Yes.
Where Cleveland does that for a lot of sports. Deion Waiters was awesome when he was here and we didn't have LeBron. But then, all of a sudden you get Myles Garrett, you get, Agba.
Yep.
Oh, well, this guy, and that's a very interesting storyline throughout the whole training camp is.
And even Nassib.
Yeah, these guys who I don't remember I think it was in one of the defenses of Sashi Brown about, it doesn't matter if they were the starting defensive lineman for the Browns because the Browns were terrible.
Yeah.
So just because you were a starting NFL lineman, in quotes, that guy isn't going to be here next year because we got a better one, and that is probably happening at a lot of positions.
And as much as I like Nate Orchard, he's like that 4A, in baseball we call them 4A players. They're a little bit better than AAA, but they're not quite major leaguers. And I think Joe Schobert is like one of those 4A talents who overperformed, who outperformed his draft position and his potential.
Right.
And Nate Orchard is somebody who kind of underperformed his a little bit, but he's still like a nice guy. You'd like to find a spot to keep a guy like that around, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, especially when you can.
So now they're going to crush our soul because we know his children.
Yeah, and they all seem very nice.
They're not adorable.
Yeah.
So.
At least Cajuste doesn't have kids.
I know, right? No. He's just got a father who's dying of multiple heart attacks.
All the time.
Uh-oh, it's another heart attack.
I was at the game Thursday.
Okay.
And I wish they would have had more mics on the crowd. But hearing the chants of Juice when Cajuste made that big play, it was a really cool moment because everybody had watched. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just one of those shared experiences. There weren't a ton of people in the stadium at that point because it had started raining. It was the third quarter. But it was really cool, and you could see his emotion at the time, and you could see it, you could feel it then. It was a really cool thing to be there for.
So how much would we be talking about the number of penalties the Browns have drawn in their first 2 games if it weren't for Hard Knocks?
That is a good question. But especially in the game against the Bills, it was very much drive killing.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them looked a little sillier than others on replay.
Oh, yeah.
They don't show you the replays down at the stadium, so I didn't see them until seeing them on Hard Knocks. Is it one of those things that the refs always go super tight in the preseason and then they back off a little bit?
They do, and it's also the Browns get no respect.
Right.
The Steelers get away with pick plays. The Patriots get away with pick plays. They don't get called for stuff like that.
The whole Ravens offense is built on throwing it up and hoping there's a pass interference call.
Yes, exactly. And the Browns will have not, to this point, ever gotten the benefit of the doubt. But I think they might start to actually have enough star power between Jarvis Landry and Myles Garrett, and even somebody who's been under-talked about probably both on Hard Knocks and in preseason is Demarius Randall.
Yeah.
The Browns scoring him from Green Bay is a really big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
He's going to make a huge impact, or should, if all goes well, should make a huge impact on the team. But he's somebody that just kind of got lost in the news cycle with all the other things going on.
Which is good from my perspective, to when there's enough good going on that you're overshadowing actual good players that you added to your team. It's unfamiliar territory for Browns fans.
And veterans. I mean, we all hope for Denzel Ward, but he is still a rookie, no matter how much of a lock we think he might be.
Well, and that, I mean, if we look at the list of people we haven't seen much from on Hard Knocks, he's right up there.
Yes.
Haven't heard much out of Julius Peppers. I would think he was a fairly...
Jabril
Julius Peppers is the old defensive lineman. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Jabril Peppers. So he seemed like a pretty big personality. Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll do an Ohio State-Michigan rivalry episode of Hard Knocks where
How many more episodes do we have?
There are 6 total, so we are halfway through the series.
It's unbelievable to think that we got 3 more of these.
Yeah. They're very enjoyable to watch. Like, it's one of those, there are certain shows you watch.
Had you ever watched one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The first one I ever watched was the one about the Chiefs that Paul Rudd narrated.
Oh.
I meant to text you this earlier, so I wasn't putting you on the spot. What, if you were going to pick a Cleveland Browns fan celebrity to narrate Hard Knocks, who would you pick?
Not Brad Paisley. Can I start with not Brad Paisley?
That's fine. That is fine. Also, I don't want to be racially stereotypical here.
Mike Polk.
That's true. I don't want to be racially stereotypical here, but the fact that it seemed like only the offensive line knew who the hell Brad Paisley was.
Yes.
Except for Jarvis Landry.
But Brad Paisley didn't know who Joel Bitonio was.
Yeah, exactly. So, I've been a fan since I'm 13. Hey, how's it going?
Real fans know the offensive line.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure, even out of uniform, I would know Joel Bitonio. I cannot say I know Austin Reader or whatever.
Right. Now, I will say, as the same as we talked about with the wide receivers, because you're so used to the helmet and you're not used to seeing their faces, I would recognize Joe Thomas in a heartbeat. Joel Bitonio I'd probably recognize, though.
And I would have always recognized Alex Mack.
Yes.
Mitch Schwartz I had at the end.
But yeah, that's the what's your name? But yeah, that the offensive linemen all came over, and then Baker Mayfield. I do like that he called Drew Stanton more of a photograph by Nickelback type guy.
That was hysterical.
And I think Stanton's almost, and he's not that old. He's probably way younger than we are.
He's like 32 or 33.
But it's like, it's almost that he didn't even get that reference, which was weird.
Yeah.
But Stanton's just kind of a bump on a log anyway. He's not been that interesting.
No. So, where do we go from here?
Well, you always get to the heartbreaking cut episodes.
Yep.
You get to those awkward meetings. And some of those cut things aren't that big of a deal for the young guys. Roback's going to get cut. He's going to get put on the practice squad. It's something we all know that's going to happen. That's not that bad for him. the part that gets dicey is with a Nate Orchard type of a guy, or, I mean, frankly, if you look at it, Carl Nassib's probably on the bubble. I mean,
on the
just
numbers
because
game.
of the numbers. It's especially when a young defensive lineman whose job it is to get to the quarterback. I mean, maybe not this year, but next year. But
and I think Carl Nassib is still benefiting from the fact that he was drafted in like the 4th round. So from a logistical standpoint, he's still really cheap.
Well, and if you look at him though, and his outlook on life and finance, he knows that his years in the NFL are limited. He knows he's a 4 or 5 year guy, and that's why he's saving all of his money.
Although he's not saving all of his money.
Oh yeah.
He talked about his return and what percentage it was, and so I figured out that he had about $350,000 invested. I probably shouldn't say that.
You are like the biggest stalker, and it's so funny.
I'm not the biggest stalker. So he's on a 4-year, $3.6 million contract. He had a signing bonus of $890,000. So I guess he is saving a lot. He's in the 3rd year. He made $450,000 in his first year, $618,000 in his second year.
So he's putting away a lot.
He is putting away a lot. Yeah. But I mean that's a reality. Like we look at all these NFL players and we look at millions and millions and millions of dollars, right?
Right.
But
if
Carl Nassib is the conservative financial NFL player, and in the middle of his 3rd year after being a 4th round pick, he's got $350,000 invested.
Yeah.
That just goes to show it's not setting you up for the long term the way people might think.
Yeah, that $800,000 signing bonus sounds awesome until you realize he is going to make an income like that for 4 to 5, maybe 6 years if he's lucky. And he seems like he knows that.
And he desperately needs to get to that second contract where it's like 3 years, $12 million with a $5 million signing bonus,
right,
or whatever those numbers look like.
Whatever it turns out to be, yeah.
He needs that second contract. He'll be well off and better off after his first contract than most people coming out of school, but it's not like he won't have to work for life, funny money.
Right.
You know, it just goes to show.
And there are more of hims than there are...
Way more.
Than there are Baker Mayfield with his $14 million signing bonus that turned into $7.
$7 million signing bonus.
Yeah.
You know. Because if you've got a $7 million signing bonus, you know, take it 50% after the agent and taxes.
Right.
If you are not putting, you know,
at
half
least
of that
$300,000.
Let's just say he better have more invested than Carl Nassib's $350,000.
Well, he's got that lucrative underwear deal.
He does have the lucrative underwear. God, that picture. I hope that picture makes Hard Knocks.
Which one, his or ours?
So, do you think he's in? Do you think he's in on the joke, or is he really this kind of?
I don't like
frat boy douchey.
It's tough. We had this discussion behind the scenes about him. I love him on the field. I love him on the practice field and in the meeting room. He seems like he's all business when he's practicing, when he's on the field, and then he dials it up a notch when he's playing in a game. I see that and I love it. But you're right. I don't know if he's in on the joke. Like the Tiger.
Because I said to you guys behind the scenes that I wouldn't be able to be friends with a guy like Baker Mayfield unless he let me relentlessly give him crap.
Right.
For the things that he does.
Yeah. And like, if he went, you know what, I have to do this. I was a number 1 pick quarterback. This is just kind of my thing. And he laughs at himself about it. That's one thing, but.
And I can see him being the kind of guy who would let people give him crap.
Yeah, me too. He seems more like that than, I don't remember who, made this comparison on the Slack, but it was, what's his personality difference between him and Brady Quinn?
Oh,
and that it seems to me like that Baker Mayfield does have a personality.
I don't think Baker Mayfield takes himself half as seriously as Brady Quinn did.
Right.
And I can't imagine a scenario where Baker Mayfield gets himself into a fist fight with a defensive lineman in the training room, the workout room.
Right. I don't see him getting in a fist fight with anybody.
No, I could see him like being the cool guy, diffusing it. You know,
now,
and I put cool guy kind of in quotes.
Right. But. Now this is a good segue into the fight that we saw
Oh, yeah.
Landry, was that Randall?
No, it was Mitchell.
Mitchell. Yeah, and I was hoping...
I'm just going to say Carlton Mitchell.
I was hoping...
That's a deep reference for you.
That is a deep reference.
For you Browns fans out there.
Whew. Well, Frisman Jackson was not available this episode, so... yeah, I lost my train of thought. So, we got Jarvis Landry trying to cool off.
Terrence Mitchell. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
we
Jarvis Landry, Terrence Mitchell, the fight. They previewed at the beginning of the episode, then they went in deep on it in the middle of the episode.
Looked like, and everybody said this after it happened on the field, that it was a misunderstanding of Landry thought he was trying to like step over him, but really it was the only way for Mitchell to get off of him, and then the ball was thrown and all that. I guess this sort of thing, and if you watch all the other Hard Knocks, about week 3 of Hard Knocks, there's a fight because these guys are tired of each other. The preseason games help a little bit that you can hit somebody else. But yeah, these guys are tired of each other. They've been working on each other, and I was hoping for a little more resolution of them, like, at the end, like, hey man, we're all on the same team and stuff like that. That would have been good for a fan's perspective. I don't know if that never happened.
I doubt it happened. And I think this is something I have noticed over the years from actually covering training camp and being there, is that mediocre defensive backs try and close the gap in practice without referees by being jerks and fouling a lot.
Right.
Committing a lot of penalties because nobody's there to call them. And the receivers get horribly frustrated because in practice, the receiver should beat the defensive back 9 out of 10 times because the receiver knows where he's going. It's a one-on-one drill. There's no safety help over the top.
And there's no pressure on the quarterback.
And so these guys make up for it by playing extra physical, grabbing, holding, doing things that would get called in an NFL game. And this is not the first time we've seen that get set off.
Right. And it's also, frankly, good practice for someone who plays for the Browns because you're not going to get those calls.
No.
So that was what was good about Antonio Callaway's touchdown in the first preseason game, is he was held. He still got there, still made the catch, and still scored a touchdown because you might not get those calls all the time. And so in a practice situation, you can keep yourself from getting into a fist fight with helmets, which is silly.
Yeah.
I did like Baker Mayfield saying, hey, you want the orange gang to go take him out? We got a lot of power. That was pretty funny.
The orange jerseys. Yeah, that was, I did enjoy that too.
But yeah, I did like Kirksey coming over, talking to him.
We can't have you guys breaking your hands.
Right.
Like, we got to be smart.
Shows more of Kirksey stepping up and being a leader on the team, even for a, multi-million-dollar guy like Landry.
I never saw that coming, by the way. I thought Christian Kirksey was like another Andre Davis, DeQuell Jackson.
Looks good, gets a lot of tackles because the defensive line is so bad.
Yeah,
kind of thing, that their numbers are awesome.
He might still be that as a player, but he is definitely, it seems like, and everything that we've read, even beyond Hard Knocks, is that he's really stepped up as a leader on the team. But I didn't necessarily expect that. I didn't know that he was going to be a good enough player to do that. But it seems like it's all kind of come together that it works for him.
Yeah, yeah. And he definitely has the personality to be a star, I think. Now, what do you think about Hugh Jackson declaring this to be the biggest turnaround in the history of sports?
Oh, I think it very well could be. I think, I don't know what that means.
Right.
It could mean 6 or 7 wins and it'd still be one of the biggest turnarounds in sports
right.
history. But honestly, no team, very few times in NFL history, I think, can we look at a team that made so many changes at key positions almost definitely for the better.
Right.
I don't want to minimize players because players are obviously the most important factor, but I think Todd Haley might be one of the biggest things. And the fact that it actually worked, that they were able to keep the head coach in place and add an offensive coordinator, approve an offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing doesn't usually happen without having to flip out the head coach and changing everything.
Right.
So the fact that they were able to kind of be partially stay the course in leadership by keeping Hugh Jackson and Greg Williams, but they change out the offensive coordinator, they change out the special teams coordinator.
Finally.
Then they add star power with Jarvis Landry. They get Demarius Randall. They change up their entire quarterback room.
Get a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
An NFL caliber.
Who made the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Who helped a team make the playoffs last year. It has all the makings of what the wildest turnarounds in NFL history, but that still might mean 6 or 7 wins.
And as Cleveland fans, we're excited all the time, so we can see this turning it into another 2-win season and everybody getting fired this year and all that, because deep down we're all pessimists.
But this one shouldn't be that.
I agree.
Even Carlos Hyde and Chubb in for basically 2 guys replacing 1.
Right.
Because Crowell had just fallen off the planet last year.
Right. Yeah, I think we still have concerns at offensive line because you're not going to replace a Hall of Fame left tackle overnight.
No.
So we still have some concerns there, but I do, like you said, across the board, I think everything is just plain better.
Everything.
And the defense last year was actually pretty good. The problem is they were just on the field the entire game.
They were on the field the entire game. But if this team doesn't score points, there's something definitely wrong.
I agree with you there.
Because they now have guys, between Carlos Hyde on the small side, Jarvis Landry on the big side, and Duke Johnson and Njoku coming in and continuing and making strides. There's no reason why this team shouldn't average, 21, 24 points a game, somewhere around there.
Right.
I think they'll probably have games where they'll have trouble scoring more than a couple of touchdowns, but I also think that there will be a couple of games where they could put up 50.
Right. And you get the right combination.
And when was the last time you felt like a Browns offense could put up 50?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, if you look at the way the starting offense has played in the preseason thus far, and we'll see Friday against a really good defense where it's the dress rehearsal game for an entire half of the game.
And probably into the third quarter.
Yeah, we'll see if they can put up some numbers.
Now we're just talking Browns. We're not even talking Hard Knocks anymore.
What else did we miss then? We got the office dog.
Butterflies.
Boy, a lot of practice tackling.
Brad Paisley in the RV.
Yeah, Brad Paisley was a little bit underwhelming to me.
Completely underwhelming. But then again, country music blows. So
yeah, it does. Please add us.
Take that, Paloha.
On that, yeah, Tiger Paloha.
It's a running theme behind the scenes at Waiting for Next Year to make fun of the pop country people. We're not talking about Ryan Bingham. We're not talking about Jason Isbell.
Right.
We're talking about Florida-Georgia Line.
Florida-Georgia Line specifically is the point of contention.
Yeah. Rascal Flatts is included in that. Anything that could be considered pop country, we're coming for you.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see.
It's an angry mob, and we generally don't support angry mobs.
I'm trying to think of if there was anything else from a personality standpoint. The Des Bryant thing. He hugged everyone in the building.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird, and I almost wonder if they kind of looked at each other and went, that went too well.
Right.
It can't be real.
What bunch of headlines about that later from Dallas.
Well, my phone is officially blowing up. I think it's time to go.
Alrighty.
I was also kind of hoping you'd lock your doors right then and there.
I did not know what that guy running was for.
We were sitting in a parking lot. There was a weird dude with slick back hair.
We are next to a courthouse. I will admit that.
And he came running by our car.
Alrighty.
All right. So much for this episode of the WaitingForNextYear.com podcast about Hard Knocks. We'll be back for episode 4.
All right. High five on the mic.
That was a high five. All right. Thanks. Bye.